body, looking fine. Let me take you out, baby.
Are you crazy? That is how you objectify a woman, and I am not going to stand for it.
That's your
It's settle down, guys. Don't you think we could settle this so much better with a formal debate?
I'm ready to crush ya.
Too bad you've already
Let's debate.
My name is Kaitlyn Hagenauer. Over here we have Mary Wollstonecraft, and behind the camera is JJ Rousseau. Today we'll be staging a debate about the benefits of co-ed education. Our debate will be unscripted and unrehearsed outside of opening remarks. Our opinions are informed by the arguments and counter-arguments made in Mary Wollstonecraft's Vindication of the Rights of Women. Mary Wollstonecraft was an English writer and a passionate advocate for educational and social equality of women. While Rousseau is considered one of the key Enlightenment philosophers, and while many of his writings are concerned with equality, it's clear that this equality is not extended fully to women. Mary Wollstonecraft today will be advocating in favor of co-ed education and public education system. And Rousseau will be arguing against this. As you may have noticed in the earlier footage, they're not wearing attire that reflects the historical context in which the Vindication was written. This is first an attempt to illustrate the types of people that may hold these opinions, and secondly, as a reminder to the audience that none of these issues are stagnant and all must be considered in the modern day.
Women have been oppressed for centuries and are currently being oppressed. We have endured years of always being chosen last because of our gender. We have spent years having to fight for our voices to be heard. Women have spent years fighting for equality in education, labor, and basic rights. The struggle for equality is written in the history books and is being lived out today. These books tell of numerous women pursuing equality in every area of society and daily livelihood. These women are known for their valor and persistence, which are characteristics of world changers. I, Mary Wollstonecraft, wrote the book A Vindication of the Rights of Women to outline the issues concerning women's rights in the modern era. I believe the lack of equality in education is at the root of the feminist movement. This leads me to believing that men and women should be educated together. The current educational institutions are not benefiting women. The current institutions of education are constructed to benefit men alone. Women are denied the space to cultivate their reason. Through education, I explain in my book, let the honest heart shew itself, and reason teach passion to submit to necessity, or let the dignified pursuit of virtue and knowledge raise the mind above those emotions. Women are not just simply emotions, we are more than that. We have the ability to think just as a man does. So therefore, we should be able to be educated just as a man. I believe that women have been reduced simply to emotions in the current status quo, due to the current institutions of education.
Amen.
After having tried to form the natural man, let us also see how woman is to be formed who suits this man. This beautiful quote from my book, Emile, was quoted in Miss Wollstonecraft's unfortunate use of paper as a mark of misunderstanding, but is instead a brilliant observation about the purpose of women. More than anything else, a woman's education should be to suit the needs of the man she will someday wed. As the natural head of the household and leader of the world as a whole, a man's needs must come first. In order to best serve this, women must be humble, meek, and timid. This outlook allows her to serve her husband well. By teaching women manners, housekeeping, other female tasks, women are going to be much more successful. And yet, a separate education of men and women is not only for his benefit, but for hers too. Women are inherently vain and care more for beauty, trinkets, and toys than reason or thinking. It would not be fair to women to force this part of their nature away. In saying that men and women should be educated together, my opponent is inherently forcing women to become something they're not. Surely no one thinks that's a good idea. In addition to the issues of nature and differences between the sex, a co-ed education will cause many issues within every individual marriage. Men depend on women only for their desires, but women depend on men for both their desires and their necessities. Given that this is true, as it obviously is, educating men and women together would remove the benefits of the union for either sex. Men's desire for a pretty, docile partner would no longer be met, and instead they would be frustrated by the discontent of a woman who is not in her proper place. Women are naturally too fond of dress to live by reason. It will create negligent mothers, not prepared ones, as my opponent may argue. A mother so concerned with politics, philosophy, and the sciences, as every well-educated man, and if we educated women equally would be, they would be completely unable to care for their children properly, let alone her home and her husband. The separate education of men and women prepares each sex for the future ahead of them. It prepares wives to meet the needs of their husbands and prepares husbands to use reason to guide their household. Combined education would lead to the downfall of the ever-important, absolutely necessary patriarchy.
These are some very extremely interesting things.
That's what I thought.
Sorry, Rousseau. But I have a few questions. First off, can men be educated and work at the same time?
Absolutely, we do it every day.
Then why can't women be educated and live a motherlyhood life at the same time?
Because men's purpose is inherently based in education. Men's jobs and roles in the world must involve an understanding of the ever-important reason that guides our modern-day thinking. Women are not even capable of such reason, much less have need of it.
But do men have brains?
Why, yes, they do.
Do women
If you had
have
been
brains?
better educated, you would know that.
Do women have brains?
Yes.
Then
Lesser
shouldn't they
ones.
be cultivated the same?
Absolutely not, because they serve different purposes in the end of times.
But what are you to say what our purpose is? You are just a man. And I am just a woman. So therefore our purposes should be defined by individuals.
Well, Mary, your point is somewhat logical until you think of the fact that women are inherently inferior to men and therefore should not have the same amounts of reason. But I
Do
have
we
a
not-
question for you. How do you account for the biological differences between gender? Surely you can't deny that men are inherently better than women.
What does biology have to do with the inherent need to learn? Our brains are the same. Though I might not be able to lift 40 pounds of feed, I can surely debate just as I am now. I can surely write a book just as I've done.
Well, Mary, don't you think that the biology of your brain is as present as the biology of your body?
I do not. If you had had more education, you would have known that.
As a woman who is inferiorly educated to myself, do we really trust your opinion?
As we should, because biology doesn't change. I have had the same education in that realm as you have.
So point to me, from history, a single example of a woman as prone to reason, as lacking in emotion, and as effective as a man.
Let's go no better place in the history book itself, the Bible. Deborah, we see her take over a place where there should have been men fighting.
You really don't think there are more examples in the Bible of men succeeding than women?
We aren't talking about all the men. You just asked me to simply name one.
Mary, you're...
Break it up, break it up, break it up. This is going too far. Any closing remarks?
Now that it's just us reasonable-minded people, look into your future. Look into the 21st century. Many of Wollstonecraft's ideas have been implemented with little to no success. Women are now highly educated, I will give her that, and yet are forced to meet the same standards as a mother and a wife, in addition to working a career. Women are now doing 3 times the work as when they were previously uneducated, and yet still receive no equality and little to no respect. In both the workplace and the educational world, sexism is rampant. Women are disrespected for slowing down to have children, and yet are disrespected if they don't. If the combined education of men and women had never happened, women would be free to be only mothers, to live in pursuit of only their happiness. And yet, in the eyes of God and man, a woman's purpose is still to be a mother and wife, and yet they are also expected to balance a career. Wollstonecraft seemed to think that men will someday see women as equals as a result of education, but that never quite occurred, did it?
Ignoring prejudices in education will allow them to continue. We don't want this to happen. Men and women benefit from pursuing reason jointly. I believe that the institution of education must be fixed. My solution to this big problem is national education that allows both girls and boys to be educated together and equally. The good effects of resulting from the attention to private education will be very confined, and the parent who really puts his hand to the plow will always, in some degree, be disappointed. And until education becomes a grand national concern. This isn't my concern. It's not the person behind the camera's concern solely. It is a grand scheme concern. It is a national concern. Because right now there is not equality. There's prejudice. And this cannot be to further reason, to further opportunity. I am calling for equality. That is education that is readily available for all genders, no matter their economic status. This is where I lay you. It's in your hands as well as mine. Let us fix this equality problem together.
Yeah.